Hello everyone, I hope you've been enjoying our playthrough of Fallout the Frontier. We recently had the opportunity to sit down and talk to the former project lead. He was kind enough to give us a behind-the-scenes look at the development of the mod, as well as answer a few questions for us and clear up any confusion. If that sounds like something that interests you, you're invited to join us, relax, sit down, and just casually talk about the development and history of this mod. Thank you. Hello, Tgspy. You're the former project lead for Fallout Frontier, yeah?
Yes.
Cool, thanks for talking to us. We just finished playing the mod recently. In fact, we just finished playing Slaver's Bay, that quest a few moments ago, and we really enjoyed that part.
It's gotten certain different reviews, but it seems like a lot of people really enjoy Slaves Harbor.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed that part.
Yeah, Zach and I agree. That's probably one of our favorite parts of the entire Frontier mod.
It was actually finished so long ago. It was finished like close to 4 or 5 years ago at this point. It was actually one of the earliest pieces of content that we actually had in the mod because it was worked on for so long by a single person, which is crazy to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't make it to the initial release of the Fallout Frontier. That was like an additional bit added on, but it was removed and separated because it was a little unstable. Didn't work for everybody.
Yeah, the reason we did that is because it was so old at that point that we had to do a lot of sort of fixing to get it working to the point where it was actually usable. And unfortunately, even the optional plugin that we put out to allow people to play it back then, it didn't actually work.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I tried. Zach and I tried that, and we had the problem, but we did get it working eventually with a new plugin.
Yeah, so the old plugin that I'd made didn't actually enable anything that it was supposed to. It was the complete opposite, actually. It just re-disabled everything, including disabling a few extra things as well.
Yeah, modding can be tough. I know. I've tried.
Yeah, chaotic, that's for sure. But yeah, but no, it's fun. It's a fun little segment and something we're gonna fix up for the rework, so it's actually usable.
I like to see as many people playing it as possible because I think that's some of my favorite that I've ever seen in the game.
I really like that it did have like multiple ways that you could progress through it. It seems like there were multiple endings, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's certainly a testament to what you can do when you have a singular idea and just hammer it home in terms of making the best RPG possible. And for that, it does a really, really good job. Even if trying to bug test that thing is a goddamn nightmare.
Yeah, it seems complex.
The sheer amount of stuff that went into it really blows your mind. But if every quest in every game was like that, boy, we'd be in a much better spot. But we'd also be in a lot more pain.
Well, I loved it for what it was.
I should probably apologize to you guys for the utter state that is the NCR main quest, the legacy version. I might as well give some context, some valid context to why things are the way they are.
Yeah, that was actually...
I know, Zach, you didn't enjoy it very much.
Yeah, that was actually going to be one of the first questions. I have like some questions written down here, and the first question I actually have on it is, what happened, LOL?
That's totally fair. So there's a lot of conflicting information. A lot of people are throwing rumors around, grabbing bits of what I've said and running with it. The reality was the NCR main quest was the singular vision of one person who had joined the team at pretty much the beginning of development. And it was at the time the only actual thing in the mod. You will notice that chapter 1 is vastly different compared to every other chapter in the mods.
Yeah.
Because it was the first thing that we'd ever done. And at the time, it actually had about 3 or 4 different writers on it. You might notice that Hardcase and Hotshot's conversation at the very start of the main quest is weird. It's really weird. It's written like a stage play or something like that, and it flows really poorly because it was written by a different writer at the time. And so it sort of muddled about a little bit, and there was 2 or 3 different writers for that segment, and then rather than making the rest of the NCR main quest sort of chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, what actually happened was chapter 3, the space station, was done second. So that was worked on from early 2016. And that was done. That took about 7 months to get done. And I know that's got a lot of heat for copying scenes from Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
It did. It did.
Yeah.
The reality was at the time, Devils had sort of only really just started to do things on his own in terms of these quest creations.
Devils was the author of the NCR main quest.
Yes, that's correct. He also did a lot of Fallout 3 horror mods, which of course comes into play in Chapter 4. But at the time, this was the first point at which he'd been really writing by himself. And so you can see things are a little bit dicey on the writing side. And of course, lifting things directly from other games was not exactly ideal.
Yeah.
Of course, at the time, we all thought, hey, this is great, we were just happy to have something to play and to show off.
I think in isolation, that whole chapter could have been really cool as its own separate thing if it weren't part of the greater Frontier mod, if it were just more of a tech demo, recreating the entire scenes of Wolfenstein in Fallout New Vegas' engine would be really cool.
Oh, I agree. Like, we've actually had discussions in the past about literally just lifting the entire space station segment and making its own mod, because it is like a 3.5 to 4 hour section. It's the only section in the mod that I can not speedrun.
It is quite long. My main complaint about the space station part is I felt like it should have been the climax of it either should have been the climax or it should have been removed. That was how I felt about it.
And you are totally right about that. I don't believe it was planned to be like a super final thing. It should have been written as the final of the main quest, but it wasn't for reasons beyond my comprehension. And obviously because it was done before Chapter 2 had even been done. So there was no link between Chapter 1 and Chapter 3. It was Chapter 1, Chapter 3, and then Chapter 2 and 4.
Oh, jeez.
Which left things a little, yeah. It was done that way because Chapter 3 was actually started by someone else, and then Devils picked it up to work on it because the other person couldn't work on it anymore. And then once that happened, we realized, we actually need to connect the other chapters. And so Chapter 2, frankly, I think Chapter 2 is one of the better chapters in the mod once you sort of get past that torturous first mission where you have to collect the bodies and the Liberator. We won't discuss the Liberator because it's basically the Deus Ex Machina on steroids. It's stupid and we all hate it.
Unfortunately, I feel like Zach and I did not do the majority of Act 2. I kind of did that off screen, simply because we had already found the 2 green energy cells while we had been doing all the side quests. So, unfortunately, Zach didn't get to explore Junk Flea, but I did in my Legion playthrough. I was able to showcase some of the awesome stuff down there.
Yeah. Chapter 2 was good because it was sort of the first time we actually got to have some freeform interactions as a player in the NCR. It was nice because you got a break from the linear scripted action that was Chapter 1. And the side quests, the Most Dangerous Game and the Ghoul Church quest are a lot of fun. I think the Ghoul Church quest is absolutely hilarious. It is so on point, Fallout silly.
Yeah.
Of course there's a ghoul Jesus, and it turns out it's just some dude trying to scam dudes out of cabs.
Just wearing a wig.
It's perfect. But yeah, and then so comes Chapter 4, which came after Chapter 2, funny enough. And this is where things start to get a little bit more dicey. The horror segments, boy.
I thought the horror segments were well scripted. I enjoyed playing them for a bit, but then they became too much.
Yeah, it turned into a case of how much can I do to show off the cool scripting here. When I go back through and play it, it's really quite obnoxious. I know you guys did the maze. The maze in particular is one part that I know very few people like. because it is god awful.
Yeah,
It is really genuinely awful.
it is. Yeah, we really just skipped through it with console commands because I tried doing it legitimately before Zach and I had played it, but even during my playtests, I had a nightmare with that nightmare sequence, so I skipped that part.
It's doable, and there is actually very set ways for you to then, follow the little ghost people and they'll lead you right to it. But on release build, I'd actually added, it was either release build or a hot fix after, I'd actually added a skip to it because we were getting so many complaints about people not liking that section. I added a skip where it just skips you straight to the end of that maze. I'd even made the point of saying, if people want to do a maze, they'll play Scary Game or something like that. I thought the Nigel Sue boss fight was really interesting the way it was done. I liked that you sort of were forced into a melee sort of piece of combat. I do think it was a terrible idea to not warn players of that beforehand, because that was an issue that we ran into when we were doing playtesting. People were like getting to this segment, and because they were set up as guns players, they'd get to this section, have like 20 melee, and get absolutely destroyed the entire time.
Oh, geez, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, we eventually gave up and just said, okay, look, if your melee is under like 50 or 60, we'll bump you up 50. So you have like 70 or 80 melee, so it's more balanced. And then sort of moving on from that, the ending of the NCR main quest, again, the Liberator, that whole segment was the last real thing that Devils did. It took quite a while to actually get done, that and like the ending sort of section. It took a very long time to get done because by that point, Devils was so unbelievably burnt out and sick of the mod that he just didn't want to work on it anymore. But he pushed himself to get it done, and that was it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me like basically the majority of the NCR quest line was done by this one mod author.
Yeah.
Were there points when you were working on this that he would send you like what he'd been working on? Were there any points where it was like I don't know if we can release this? Or was it just kind of like it was under the wire, he just delivered this stuff and it was we have to get the mod out?
So for most of development, obviously we push changes as they're made. All of our developers do big sections or big chunks of the mod. He would do like a half a chapter at a time, send a plugin out, and we'd implement it. I think at the time, looking back on this in hindsight, we should have said, hey, this segment really won't work. Can you make some changes or can you cut it entirely? But you have to remember at the time, like the NCR main quest was everything we had. We didn't have another main quest. We didn't have anything else to go off. And Devils was already burnt out very early on into development because he was getting sick of modding that stuff in general. So we didn't really have the flexibility of saying, hey, we want to cut all of this, because then he'd be like, well, screw you guys, I quit. And we wanted the NCR main quest done, of course. Like we wanted to have a completed mod. Like I get a lot of personal flack for that, saying, hey, why didn't you do such and such to stop Devils? You should have said back then. It's like, yes, you could have. But we then would have been stuck in another 4 years of development as we had to rip out the main quest and make it again.
I always felt kind of bad bringing up criticisms about it because I understand how much work that people have to put in to make this mod. So like, even if I personally think it's not good, this was someone's baby. Like somebody actually worked on this. Somebody really wanted this to go together. And it's always kind of weird for me bringing up criticisms of something, but then also being like, this is something that he wanted to make. So I feel kind of bad about bringing criticisms up about that.
It's a difficult topic, unfortunately, because like for most of us, I and the rest of the team are more than happy to take criticisms. That's the whole reason that we're doing the rework at all, is because we heard all the criticisms and we were like, hey, we want to make the mod better. Can we do better? Heck, most of our writers are people we've brought in. Our new lead is someone who was complaining about the mod on Reddit and she's now the lead. I'm not even kidding. That's the story there. She made a whole bunch of posts complaining about the writing and the lore, and then eventually, we got her on the team, and now she's the project lead. That's how it goes. Like, there's a lot of people that have said that we're not taking criticism, or like, oh, we're not listening to criticism. We are. Why do you think we removed all of the things that people didn't like in version 1.1 of the mod? People tend to just sort of shy over that fact, conveniently.
You also had the optional patch that you made to skip some of the more obnoxious sections, like the platforming in space section. We didn't install that for our playthrough because I wanted to see everything that was initially available at release, but you did try to lessen the blow of some of those real problematic areas.
Yeah, the one that I really stuck with was removing the hard case section entirely, because I thought that was always a really terrible idea. I like the concept as like a separate mod, but as part of a singular linear story development, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work, and that's something we will not be doing again. We will not be taking away the player's control like that, because it's an RPG. You shouldn't have to do that.
You said we there, even though I know you've recently stepped down as the project lead for the project. Are you still planning on staying on and working on the mod? Because it seems like a real fun project to see to the end, but I know you also might be feeling burned out after all the work that went into the mod and then all the drama that came after it.
Yeah, so I won't be participating. I won't be contributing. I won't be leading or anything. I've already moved all of that over to the rest of the team. Because frankly, there's a very lengthy conversation to be had here about how users in the community treat the authors. But the reality is, I've been doing this now for close to 6.5, 7 years.
Oh my!
I'm getting sick of it. I'm getting really sick of it. I was burnt out 3 years ago. I had to take month-long breaks to get myself back to modding. And that was during a period where people were still very hyped for the Frontier. You can imagine what January did to me, everything that went on and all the crap we got. It takes a toll, even though we do our best to sort of be quiet about it and just reflect on it.
It's understandable.
It kills you. It really kills you. I still get messages, good and bad, from people saying, hey, the mod was really great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for it. It makes me feel better. And then you get the occasional racist moron coming into my DMs saying, oh, you suck. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But in some roundabout way, there is a part of me that can't let this project just disappear from my memory entirely. Like, I want to see it to its full completion of the rework. So, like, I will be sticking around as a bit of a passive observer, and just as someone to be there if they need a question answered, or something like that. But I won't be contributing to the project unless the need absolutely arises. Because yeah, I've had enough. I'm done.
I can understand that. I guess I should also say thank you, because I actually did enjoy the vast majority of this mod. From the Legion quests, which I thought were all really good, the Crusaders quests, all of the side quests, and even parts of the NCR main quest, even if it wasn't all the same. There were bits that I really enjoyed, and I think this is perhaps the best project I've ever played, the best mod for Fallout New Vegas.
I would agree with him. Overall, I enjoyed most of the mod. The problem I had was with parts of the NCR campaign. But overall, the mod was... I really enjoyed it. You guys made a really cool world that was a lot of fun to explore. The side quests were great. I didn't get a chance to play the Crusaders quest line. I kind of would like to, but I don't know if I'm willing to go back and play that.
This is such a big mod that we've been playing it on the channel longer than any other mod. We've been playing it since January, and we're still releasing episodes because there's so much to find and so much to showcase. It's a great project.
The thing that I've sort of tried to hammer into people that I was going on about even before releases, this has gone from a project to a full-scale game. I mean, on a technical level, this is the scale of a game. I've done numbers comparisons before release. We've got more form records than either Fallout 3 or New Vegas. We've got more interior the entire game and DLCs combined. We've got all of this stuff that constitutes it being a full game. It's a passion project, and it's really got a lot of really fantastic work in it. Obviously, a lot of that work is going to need some level of reworking, because that's what happens when you only have 3 or 4 writers for the entire development process, rather than the like 20 we have now. But it was a lot of fun to work on. It was a lot of fun. The people were great. The team was great, and I'm glad people have been enjoying it. I just wish that we had sort of picked up on the problems before release, rather than let it release in the state it was. But we were all pretty burnt out by that point, and we needed to push a release date. So we said, screw it, let's just go for it.
That's understandable.
I heard a lot of rumors about the guy that was there were a lot of I don't know how to word it specifically. I guess pedophilia rumors about the one person specifically. I don't think anybody actually knew like what the full story was about that one. I guess what happened with that? Like what was the deal with everything that happened with that one? That guy.
There is a lot of misinformation and a lot of baiting that's associated with that whole topic. The reality of the situation was the person in question had drawn some art, MLP art, that was featuring minors. It was nothing crazy, nothing insane, but said person did get found out, in quotation marks, I say. People started going through their profile and found that they'd posted this content. And so our immediate decision was to say, okay, we need to remove this person from the team. Unfortunately, this all happened while I was asleep. So you can sort of guess where the kind of chaos came from.
Yeah.
Because if I was awake when this had happened, there would have been a very different way this had played out. But what happened was sort of a PR dumpster fire where we were all sort of stepping on each other's toes and being insane about it.
I had heard things about how this person had a lot to do with the mod, and I had also heard things that they had basically like designed some icons, and that was it.
I had heard that too, but I'm not sure I believe that, because I think this particular person also authored a bunch of other mods you've played, so certainly the things that they must have contributed a little bit more than just the icons, right? Perhaps some experience?
Yeah, that's correct. They did contribute a significant amount to the mod, not to writing, not to quest design, but to sort of the more technical elements. They did a lot of work with the armors.
Okay.
The reason that most of the armors have female variants when most mods don't is because of this person. The reason that we have all the icons, all like 900 plus icons, is because of this person. They did a significant amount of bug testing and fixing. They did a lot of technical work, and so I would never downplay. I shouldn't be downplaying. I think I have downplayed what they've done in the past to sort of keep the heat off a little bit. But the reality is they did do a lot of work. They didn't do writing, but they did a lot of work.
I remember when I heard about that, I had done some more research, because obviously Mike and I are playing the mod, so it's one of those things that I had to consider personally of like, do we continue playing the mod? If the moment someone throws the P word around surrounding something, it does kind of become okay, do I continue playing this? So I had to consider it. My personal opinion at the time was, it's stuff they drew. From what I understand, it wasn't even...
People that draw My Little Pony stuff is always kind of weird.
It's
in general. It makes people uncomfortable.
So maybe it was just blown out of proportion. My personal opinion was, I suppose it's not that big of a deal. I felt like it was the kind of thing where currently people need something to be outraged about, and then next week it's something else, and they completely forget about what it was last week.
But the unfortunate fact is that it came out at the same time that people were finding out about some of the more unsavory things that were hidden within the Frontiers files. Found some more, some weird dialogue they didn't like, some sexually suggested dialogue they didn't like, and it just took on a life of its own and became a big old problem.
Yeah, that's the other reality that people have to consider. Personally, I'm of the opinion that what they did was really not that bad. It's weird, but it's not illegal.
Yeah, it's weird, and you can't arrest someone for being weird.
Yeah, if they did, I would be in a cell somewhere already, but that's beyond the point. The whole thing was exacerbated by I'll speak plainly and truthfully. 4chan and their merry squad of morons sort of contributed a little bit to this. This happened pretty much on the day of release because we did a live stream where we made some unfortunate political connections to the Enclave. You know, we said they're a racist, fascist power fantasy, which I still think is true.
Yeah.
But that sort of ticked off a good portion of the less savory elements of the internet. And so we were getting now a lot of flack from those kinds of people, and they started digging. And then the screenshots started going around Twitter of, you know, pieces of dialogue. The whole America situation, which was a nightmare in of itself.
Which I also would like to apologize for our terrible country.
He's talking about the character that you didn't meet. There's a character in the Crusaders questline named America
Oh, okay.
that had some of the more subjective dialogue. Was
okay.
when people say you can recruit a young girl as your sex slave, they're talking about a girl that's named America in the Crusaders questline.
Okay. I was unaware of that.
That was another thing that was massively overblown. People were taking it in ways that they shouldn't have. That feet line that people were saying was a fetishy thing is just hilarious when you think about it.
It seemed incredibly innocuous.
Because it was always set up that way. It wasn't designed to be something, you know, crazy subjective. It was just innocuous and complaining about foot smells, you know, Jesus Christ. It was some real projection. But there were some other parts of America's dialogue, but there was never anything, you know, sexual at all. Even if the dialogue did in some way insinuate it, that should have been caught in play testing. But, you know, when we tested it, we were all thinking from the perspective of us as developers, thinking, okay, you know, this works as a role-playing choice. It's evil. It's very evil, but it works.
I can understand how people would misread that. I've done a decent amount of writing myself, and there's been multiple moments where I've written things and I think this is how you interpret it, and then I give it to somebody else and they're like, yo, what the fuck was up with this part where they're talking about boats? I'm like, what the hell? Where did you get that from?
It literally became that. It became a whole case of he said, she said, you know, taking things out of context. And of course, it didn't help that, you know, people were throwing these screenshots around Twitter because we had the public image and the notoriety at that point for it to become a big deal. You know, if we were a smaller mod, this would not have happened, you know.
Yeah.
There definitely were some lines in the mods that were a bit too skeevy. There was one character in Irvington that I know a lot of people were not happy with. And of course, again, that was a whole case where the intention of the writing didn't really get through. It was supposed to be a representation of that sort of 14-year-old Tumblr girl sort of thing. Really lewd, really skeevy, that sort of thing. The kind of thing a teenager would do.
I remember reading about this stuff afterwards, or like reading things online afterwards, and people were talking about that, and I didn't understand the connection they were trying to make.
We have cut that character entirely just because there wasn't any point keeping it, and they weren't doing a whole lot for the mod anyway. There are things in the mods that were not great. This is the reality of having hundreds of thousands of words worth of dialogue, you know, tens of thousands of lines of voice dialogue, thousands of notes. There's going to be stuff that didn't get caught by us. You know, we didn't have a huge team to go through these things. We tried to go through everything we can, but there's a sheer volume, and you sort of get blind to the issues that might crop up as an objective player over time, especially when you've been working on something for so long. I would like to think that everything that people made a big deal about was massively overblown, but the things that people have genuine issues with, those are not overblown. I think those are absolutely valid, and there's a reason. That's the reason we're making the rework at all.
Which I'm certainly looking forward to. It might take a few more years because these things are never simple, and you're basically making an entire new campaign from scratch, the entire team. So it's not going to be a simple project, but I imagine once it's finished, it could be a nice addition to this mod and really wrap it up nicely.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for the rework is we're bringing on a huge amount of new team members as well. because prior to release, we'd enacted a rule where we don't hire new writers because, we need them to be able to implement quests, and people who can just write are kind of useless. But that backfired on us spectacularly because most of the mod is written by 3 people, which doesn't work well when things don't line up to the quality that we want them to be. So we've got a huge team of writers now. We've got a lot more oversight on what gets written and what gets implemented in the game. So fingers crossed nothing skeevy gets in the game again, because that was, definitely a problem, especially as we've gone through and documented the whole mod. We've realized that there is a bit of a recurring pattern of, let's say, suggestive, or at the very tamest, mildly suggestive dialogue and instances, maybe just not thought out, but it happened. But the rework is going to be really awesome, and I'm really hoping my team can pull through. I know they will, but what we've got so far is phenomenal. Even in the last couple months, we've done a huge amount of work. I'm sure you guys probably have a bunch of questions as well. Thanks for just letting me rant and ramble for the last God knows how long.
No worries.
I like it. I like to hear behind the scenes because, like I said, I really enjoyed the Frontier mod, and I always like peeking under the hood and seeing how it got made and how the things got hooked together.
It was a labor of love, that's for sure, and we put a lot of time and effort into it, and we were all really happy when it came out, and we are still in some way really happy with how it turned out, even if not all parts of it were the way we wanted it to be.
I thought the vehicle implementation was interesting, but I had a lot of problems with it. I feel like it comes from Fallout not being a driving game. You're not supposed to be able to drive vehicles in that game, so when you try to put vehicles in it, it becomes difficult.
I think the level design also hindered you because there's a lot of ruins and rubble everywhere, so trying to drive your vehicle from point A to point B could get you caught up on a bunch of rubble or caught in a dead end, or you drive into a field of enemies and you take a few bullets and your vehicle explodes. It can be frustrating.
The decision to remake the vehicles, because originally the vehicles that we had were even worse than the vehicles we have now. The vehicles we have now on like a pure technical level are without a doubt the best we'll ever see in a Fallout game, until Bethesda decides to add writable things in the future. But that was 9 months of work, and we needed to really rework the world space to actually fit things in the way they should, but we just didn't have the time, the effort, or the manpower to be able to like reshape the world space, clear roads, set up proper paths and stuff. It is something we're doing for the rework. At this point, we've got like 12 different names for the rework. We've got like Irvington rework, Salttown rework, we've got road rework. It was like we basically just see things and we're like, we should rework that and rework that. And it's just, the work is just piling up because there's so many things that can be improved. But the vehicles are truly a testament to the power of scripting in this engine, but also the insanity that is Zalandro. He nearly died trying to get that thing done the day of the Nexus release. We were down to the last 2 hours, and we were still pushing patches for the vehicles. Controller compatibility, the ability to use a controller with the vehicles, was done in the last 2 hours of release. Before we put, not even kidding, it was done the last 2 hours of release. We were like massively just trying to get it in, but we were running into all of these bugs, and we finally got it in. And then I shipped it off to Google Drive and then sent it off to Nexus. We actually had to have one of the Nexus staff members upload it to their servers themselves because it wouldn't have gotten out in time otherwise.
Oh my god.
They actually uploaded it via their main CDN because it's like 25 gigabytes. So it was like uploading a whole game, and my internet connection was too slow. So they did it from their offices. Huge thanks to Picky for that. But we were really, really down to the wire on that. I didn't sleep for the next 2.5 days when release came out, just, out of excitement, because the lead up was just so chaotic. It was a lot of fun, mind you, but it was very chaotic. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff of the rework that we're really happy with. I'll just sort of discuss briefly without detailing too much because we want to keep some element of suspense and whatnot. But we're reworking, obviously, the NCR main quest. It's going to be a lot less linear, significantly less linear. There's a lot of dialogue choices now. The writing will be a lot more focused, a lot more thought out. Different endings. We're still having to include things like the space station. We would have loved being able to have gotten rid of the space station sort of entirely. The reality is, unfortunately, it's tied into everything. So we've morphed that a little bit. It's no longer Archimedes 2 because it made no goddamn sense for it to be Archimedes 2. We got crap for that. It's true. It makes no friggin' sense, but that's what it was. It's now a whole different space station, one that makes a lot of lore sense. I think you guys will love the concept for it when we show it off. We're also reworking stuff like Salt Town, because Salt Town, I don't know if you guys have played Salt Town. I think you have.
Yes.
Yeah, we have.
So the concept of that quest is it's a cool concept, but the writing left a lot to be desired, unfortunately. What was supposed to be this, like, I'm putting it in air quotes here, like a communist, anti-capitalist thing, sort of ended up just being anti-union, which isn't exactly all that good, and it wasn't really the way we wanted it to be portrayed because it's kind of a crappy portrayal. So we're reworking that. Irvington is getting reworked because it sucked. Some of the quests in there really just didn't work. We're reworking Scavengers. The whole Scavenger faction set is getting reworked, so there's now 5 or 6 different actual Scavenger factions, and they each have their own unique territories and unique armor sets, unique weapon sets. We're reworking the stadium, the big stadium. I actually saw in the recent video a fun little technical tidbit. I saw in the recent Legion video, the filler episode.
Yes.
Where you were talking about how the stadium had no chairs.
Yeah.
That is because the chairs were contributing hundreds of megabytes to the RAM usage in that section.
I figured, yeah.
And when you've only got 3 gigabytes to use, you can't do much. So we had to get rid of all of the chairs like years ago because it was causing so many performance problems.
I definitely consider that to be a technical limitation. I was just poking a fun joke at it, but I kind of assumed that. Yeah.
Something related to that my girlfriend is from California, and we were watching that episode I think last night, and she was like, "Wait, there's stadiums out here that have like chairs like that?" Apparently, there's actually quite a few stadiums in California that just don't have chairs. They're just concrete benches.
Oh, jeez.
But and actually, it's way more comfortable because you can just kind of like stretch out a little bit.
Maybe, okay.
So you're not pinned into a little stadium chair.
It's true. It's a thing here in Australia as well. Not so much for the bigger stadiums, but for like smaller, like community stadiums, they won't have chairs. They'll have like concrete sidings sort of thing, and everyone sits on them and vibes, which is a lot of fun.
All right.
Yeah, but the whole stadium is actually going to be turned into a new settlement called Sandlot. We've released some screenshots on our Twitter that sort of detail it. It's a huge Legion settlement. The comparisons to Diamond City are very fair, but I would like to say that we did it first because the Frontier came out before Fallout 4, and it was shown off before Fallout 4, I guess. But the whole concept is it's a Legion and Scavenger settlement inside of this stadium. And we'll be showing off more of that in the coming weeks, but it's really phenomenal what we've done with it, what we're going to be doing with it. I think that'll be the big thing that draws people into the rework, because it'll attach to a lot of other things as well. It'll have its own like mini quest line and such.
Yeah, it sounds great. The reason I have the filler episode is because I had marked that day as being the day that I went to the stadium and did all the quests there, and then I was a bit confused that there was basically nothing to do there. And I only learned later that it was because the stadium is really only existing to be a set piece in the NCR campaign, and nothing was really done for it in any of the other campaigns. So that's a very ambitious plan for that area. I'd look forward to that.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that we didn't sort of give more to the stadium pre-release, but because it was so heavily tied into the NCR, there wasn't a lot we could do, and the way it was set up was very linear as well. It was basically a corridor shooter. in a literal sense. There was trenches with corridors in it. So there wasn't a whole lot of leeway that we had without ripping the whole NCR apart and redoing it, which is what I did. I ripped the whole thing out. That was 3 days of work to rip out the NCR.
Jeez.
3 days, 970 errors, over 90,000 forms removed, which is the size of an entire DLC.
Goodness.
Removed. That was a lot of fun ripping that out, and we're still dealing with all the errors that came from that, but
Oh, jeez.
it's to be expected. Yeah. But yeah, this is there's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of work, and modding as a whole, I think people don't really understand the length that we modders go to create the content that we do. We still deal with people who are like, how dare you do this and this that way? Why didn't you do this and this that way? Or like, how did you miss this thing? The reality is, we're still just people. Like, we're not getting paid to do this. We're doing this as a hobby. We're doing this for fun. Like, we're trying to enjoy ourselves while we're doing this, and we're making content for everyone else to enjoy. But there comes a time when it is up to us to sort of determine what gets made and what gets done. And if people aren't happy with that, then frankly, people need to live with it. Unless it's like valid criticism where like, oh, this doesn't work in combination with X thing. People love to soapbox about issues with modders and mods in general.
Mm-hmm.
But it's free content. You can't look a gift horse in the eye and then spit in it, You have to realize that we're putting in a huge amount of time, effort, and work to make things for people to enjoy. And it's debilitating when people come around and just start complaining. There is a very serious problem with the community of Fallout, a very serious and dark problem with it. It is very toxic. Even reading the comments of your guys' videos at times is rough because it can be quite vitriolic, let alone the comments on like our videos and such.
I remember one comment specifically because it's always the negative ones that end up sticking with me more than the positive ones. But I remember this one because I thought it was funny, where somebody said, "I'm so tired of them doing the Frontier content. The only reason they're doing it is because they got featured in the mod." Like they were implying that because we had like 4 or 5 voice lines in the mod, that was the entire reason we were still doing it. And I thought that was really funny. I didn't engage with the person for obvious reasons.
Yeah, it's for the best, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff like that. People like Al Chess Breach, he was doing that. He was getting a lot of flack for doing it, but he enjoyed it. It really means a lot when people like you guys and Al Chess Breach and everyone else plays the mod and really enjoys it, because it's like, that's what we wanted at the end of the day. Like, we didn't want the glory or the fame or the anything. We just want people to enjoy the content we've made. And it's really nice when people actually do enjoy it, because it sort of means the work was worth it in a way. But yeah, I think modding has very much played its part in my life, and I've learned a lot from it. It's time for new people to take over, and I think you may see a very quiet but eventual exodus of the old school modding people from this community over the next few months, because people are getting sick of it.
It's a real damn shame. Because the more I see this, the more I watch this grow, and the more modding projects I see, the more impressed I am. This whole thing has been incredibly ambitious, and the way you describe it seems even more so. How things were pushed out the door at the very last second. And I've worked with the GEC before, the editing for Fallout New Vegas. I know that thing can be a real hassle. The fact that the mod came out at all in the state that it's in is really impressive. The fact that even all these vehicles, even if we didn't enjoy our time with them that much, the fact that they worked on a technical level and with the controller, things like that, was very impressive.
It is legitimately impressive.
There's a lot to be proud of for us. We're so happy with how the world looks. I still think that ours is one of the best looking worlds in terms of just pure style and design. Obviously, there's a lot we're redoing. We've got people who actually live in Portland to help us sort of make the world look a lot more realistic in terms of proper buildings, proper locations and stuff like that. But there's a lot to enjoy. There's a lot to enjoy with it. And I've said before, and I'll continue to say it again, to the chagrin of every team member, I think Fallout 3 is the better game, and I think I think we sort of represent or draw more inspiration from 3 in a lot of things than New Vegas. But favorite games and all is a very heated and contested topic.
You're talking more in the sense of there being a giant open world with lots of ancient ruins to explore and less about the communities to talk to. That's the design philosophy you're talking about there?
Yeah. So I've very openly said before that I think Fallout 3 does a lot better as a Fallout game because it fits the style, it fits the theme, the mood is on point, the design is on point. It's a huge open world to explore. You can never run out of stuff to find. There's always something new to find, random encounters and all that. And it's beautiful. It's really gorgeous. Like I can go back and play Fallout 3 hundreds of times and still find new things to do. New Vegas not so much, but whatever. People enjoy New Vegas, so I won't hit on them too much. But that's modding. That's modding for you. Over time, you sort of learn to appreciate the games for what they do well and what they don't do well. But yeah, and if you guys have any other questions, feel free to hit me.
I don't know, Zach, do you have any other questions?
I guess I can't really think of any off the top of my head.
I feel like I've learned a lot from this discussion, and I've earned a greater appreciation for the work that went into it.
Well, I guess I should thank sort of everyone. Thank you guys as well. Obviously, for actually playing the mod at all and enjoying it the way you have. But also your support of us is really massively appreciated in a dark time. It's nice to know that people are enjoying the stuff that we put out. And I guess, yeah, this is like a public thanks for everyone that's enjoyed the content, everyone who's supported us, who supported me. There's a lot to look forward to in the rework. The new team are going to be great. They're going to be fantastic.
It sounds great. I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much because we've already heard about how much work and how much time it takes to make an impressive mod. And the fact that we not only have to see the Frontiers NCR main quest be removed, which causes a lot of bugs, but also an entirely new quest being added for the campaign, and then all these other areas being reworked. It sounds like a lot of work that a lot of people have to spend time on, and I guess a watched pot never boils, and there's no guarantee. Like, people do get burned out, so it might never actually see the light of day, so I try not to get my hopes up too much, but it's hard not to, considering how much potential I see in this mod.
Yeah, that's very true. I put my trust in my team, and I've said before, as a failsafe, if things just don't work out, we release it as a public beta. Even what we have now is really nice. Just the smaller changes we've made to the world space, to the balance, to how things function. It's a lot of fun, but there's going to be so much more in the future, and I'm looking forward to it.
I hope it works well for you guys. I think it'll be a really interesting thing to play through.
I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm going to take a very long and needed break from this. I'm going to go
well-deserved.
Play some actual games for a change. I haven't played a proper video game in a very long time. My 7,500 hours between the GEC and New Vegas, I think that's enough. To be honest.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us and explaining some of the things behind the scenes and telling us your hopes for the mod's future.
I guess I thank you guys. I really do genuinely appreciate that you guys have stuck with it. Mike, I really appreciate the fact that you sort of publicly defended us ages ago. That was a very needed sort of boost of positivity at the time. It stuck with us. It really stuck with us. Sort of gave us a little boost of energy to keep going, so to speak.
I'm glad to hear that. I just couldn't see the toxic teardown going on and not say something. It was unfortunate how that happened.
Yeah, I'm really hoping at some point the Fallout community sort of has a deeper look at itself. Just a very small subsection of people that have made the community incredibly toxic. We're still getting anti-Semitic jokes and pedo jokes and all that. I do hope in the future, though, that people sort of just chill the fuck out, to be honest.
Yeah.
God, it's a nightmare to deal with. But we got through it, so yeah. Guess thank you guys.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll catch you guys around.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for your incredible hard work.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Take care, guys.
Yeah, you too.
Yep, you too.
See ya.